and welcome back to Home Built Help's Tip of the Week. This week we're going to talk about cutting inside holes in sheet metal. Now we all know how to cut metal with hand shears. We're not going to be bored with that topic, but rather it's a bit more difficult to make a clean size hole inside of a sheet of metal. For example, for inspection areas and other irregular holes. Well, we can use a hole cutter for a round standard hole, but I'm talking about being able to cut any size hole you want inside of a metal sheet and have it look nice. I'm going to show you 3 tools that can be used for this purpose and let you choose the one that you like the best. Let's take a look.
Before we look at some alternate ways of cutting our sheet metal, we should first review the common standard ways we cut. Here is a pair of green and red metal snips or shears. Now with these shears, we always note that one side curls up out of the way, and that's because by definition something has got to move when we make a cut, and because we're cutting an edge, this is allowed to curl up out of the way, and our surface we want to keep, hopefully, is staying nice and flat. Here's our project, our challenge maybe. We have a square cutout that we want to make in the interior of this sheet. I drilled a hole so that we can get our snips started in here, and I'll try and cut this out. And you quickly find that you're making a mess and distorting the metal on both sides because, and I just can't even hardly follow the line. Using these types of shears is just not appropriate when we're trying to make internal cuts. Great for edges, but we need a different tool to do this. For our next cut, we're going to use a pair of Jilson shears. Now we'll take a closer look at these after I demonstrate a cut. Now I've brought our sample back and I have drilled a new hole. Here's the problem we made before with the normal shears. And I'll stop right there. Now if you'll look, you'll see that other than I didn't follow the line real good, but close enough, we got a very nice slot. It's a cut, but it's a slot. So we actually removed a piece of metal. And note, there is no deformation on either side. That's because, unlike a normal shear that's just tearing the 2 pieces apart, and of course one piece has to move, curl up, we made 2 cuts simultaneously. We removed the center piece, or the slot, so to speak. It was the slot metal that curled up. Let's see if we can find it. Sitting in here, this is the metal that was removed. It curled up. Metal has to move out of the way while we're cutting. Take a closer look at the shears. We will see why this works so nice. There's actually 2 cuts going on. This bed here is supporting the metal. So the metal feeds in from here. Both sides of our project unharmed. Nothing's been pulled away and it's not distorted like it was over here on both sides. Now you might ask, this is wonderful for straight cuts. Can we make curve cuts? There we go. This is a pretty nice edge, maybe a little bit of filing to make it perfect, but there's been no distortion along either edge as it cuts. I cut this circle out with the Jilson shear and also made this arc. If you notice, the more you try to turn the shear, you will get some tiny bumps. A little more filing is necessary because you're, of course, slightly rotating the shear as you go around. Next, we're going to take a look at a different cutting tool. This is a pair of nibblers, two different styles, both work the same. And what we find is that when we squeeze the handle, a cutting blade up here will take a chunk out of our material. I've drilled a 3/8 inch hole at this corner, and I'm going to attempt to cut our line here using the nibbler. Now the nibbler gets inserted into the hole. We can do it in either direction. It's a little easier if I go this way because we can see the cutting blade a little more easier if we do it this way, though it will work. And you can get an idea of the size of material that it cuts out. So I'm simply squeezing the handle, and each time I squeeze, it takes a chunk out. And I'm going to try and get the best angle so we can see that work. There's a small piece of aluminum falling out each time, and I simply progress the blade forward after I cut it out. So it gives me a good deal of control because I can see the blade. It is a little time consuming, and it does take a good sized chunk out each time. Another nice thing about it is that it does not deform the surrounding material. Everything stays nice and clean. So a bit time consuming, but very nice for getting an internal area cut out, albeit a bit slow.
And here is our new tool. This is a double-headed power nibbler. Each one of these heads is a nibbler. They're both identical, and we power it with our electric drill. We have a handle. The handle goes on one of the heads. Doesn't matter which one, they're both identical. And then we're going to attach this to our drill. Go ahead and do that. And we'll tighten it up. And now, when we power the drill up, you can see the nibbling action there. Now typically you go at full speed, but we can see the nibbling action. What this allows us to do is to hang on with two hands, one to guide. So typically we'd be like this, and then we can navigate through our material. Let's go ahead and try this and see what type of job it does. Now we're back to our sample, and we're going to do our final cutting with our power nibbler. The requirement was for a hole, which is large enough for the bit to be able to pass through, and I will try a straight line and see how it works out. And it did a very nice job, nice and straight and fast. I can go ahead and finish up. Now there's quite a bit of shaking. Of course, that's because I don't have this secured very nice, but it actually doesn't create as much vibration as it may appear. I'm going to finish up going over this way. And then we have one more pass in this direction. And I'm going to see if I can clean up this little edge left from when we were using our hand shears. And sure enough, it does let us clean up some edges. So my evaluation is that this tool is wonderful for inside cuts. The edges aren't bad. A lot of it has to do with how steady you follow your line. And the edges aren't too bad. A little bit of filing and you're done. And there we have it. 3 great tools for making nice inside cuts. It always pays to practice with them before doing your final job. Now, everyone, back to building. I know which one I'm going to practice with right now.